Hi, good morning, everybody, and welcome to our webinar this morning. We're going to have a quick look at managing your business-to-business records effectively, obviously within the Prospect CRM system. So I expect this to take probably about 25 minutes, something like that. Okay, so let's get cracking. I am Stewart McLaren, for those of you that don't know me, and I'm the Sales and Marketing Director at Prospect Soft. And that is a horrible picture of me. So a quick agenda for what we're going to run through. As I say, it's not a long webinar. I thought it was worth just running through the hierarchy again, not just the hierarchy in Prospects CRM, but also how that relates to records in your ERP or inventory system. Then we're just going to have a quick look at creating records and some of the functionality that we've got in Prospect CRM that you can take advantage of to help you do that. We're going to have a quick look at data consistency and some of the consequences, but some of the ways that you can overcome those consequences as well. And really, I guess this is a sort of a bit of a data management nod, really, so that people understand and you need a best practice procedure for your own system. Then we're going to have a look at notes and tagging and important notes and pin notes as well. So there's quite a lot of functionality in the notepad now that I thought it was just worth running through with people in terms of the B2B data that we're managing. And then we'll just have a very quick look at the different ways of getting at recall lists and information about recalls and how you can clear them and so on and so forth. Okay, so in terms of the hierarchy, I wanted to start by looking at what in most back office systems, ERP or inventory systems, is actually a pretty flat structure. So we're only going to talk about customer records today. Obviously, we do also integrate to suppliers, purchase records, but we're just going to talk about customers today. And so in pretty much all of those systems listed at the bottom there that we work with, there is a flat structure of a customer invoice record, sales ledger, customer record, whatever the different systems call it. And yes, you can have one or sometimes more than one contact within that customer record, but it's pretty much that flat structure. Where that starts differing is it depends on the system, but quite a few systems allow you to add delivery addresses to a customer record. They're not separate accounts, they're just addresses that might be used for deliveries for that customer. So they don't hold any financial information, and typically in the ERP or inventory system, you can't isolate orders by delivery address, so you can't see if it's a branch, for example, what one branch is buying that another branch might not be buying. That could be useful information from the sales perspective, and so I'll come on to how we can look at that kind of information in the Prospect CRM system. So that's just literally addresses attached to a customer record. Some of the systems, and as I say, they do vary. Some systems actually allow you to set up a separate account for an order or delivery address or branch, but they're not invoicing accounts. And so you attach them to an invoicing account. It does mean that you can process an order separately on that order or delivery account, but when you move from an order to an invoice, it jumps across to the customer's invoicing record, the main record here, and will sit as an invoice on that record. And again, depending on the system, some allow a bit of information and some lose that information when it turns into an invoice and moves to the invoicing account. But that's a sort of a step perhaps beyond just delivery addresses, where you've actually got a kind of an order account that you can't invoice to. So Exchequer and Pegasus, I think, do that in particular. And then, depending on the functionality in the system, what we see quite commonly is if you sell to customers in multiple currencies, for various reasons, not just because they've got branches in other countries, but maybe they want to buy sometimes in euros and sometimes in dollars and sometimes in pounds. Some systems have the ability to change a currency on a customer account and then perform the order or invoice or whatever in a specified currency. Most fix the currency on the account when you create the account, and so what you have to do if you have that situation is then create, in this example, 3 accounts for the one customer. So I have then a sterling account that I invoice in pounds to them, or place their orders and invoice in pounds. I'll have perhaps a US dollar account where I invoice and they order and I invoice in dollars, and maybe a euro account. So, and again, I'm just pointing this out because that can start making the data a little bit messy. If I want to see what has that customer spent in total, I've probably got to start taking some data out to Excel and messing about with it. So those are the kind of the scenarios that we meet fairly commonly in all of those systems that we connect and integrate to. And so let's just park that for a moment. We'll come back to it in a second and see how we handle it from within the Prospect CRM system. But let's just remind ourselves of the CRM data hierarchy, because it is a hierarchical database, not a flat database. And so you get a bit more information across different levels in the Prospect CRM system. So obviously we are talking here about customer, prospective customer, supplier information. So typically you'll have a lot more records in the Prospect CRM system than you would in your ERP or inventory system. They would only be live customers or live suppliers, whereas you'll have, a full marketing list of people that you're trying to sell to also in the Prospect CRM system. And that becomes important when I start talking, when we get into the system, about our integration and how we relate to customer records in your ERP or inventory system, and the fact that from a prospective customer that doesn't exist yet in the ERP or inventory, we can create a new account and connect up to it so that you can then take an order and process it through to, picking list, delivery note and invoice, etc. So in the Prospect CRM system, for all of those types of records, whether they have a record in my back office or not, we hold a hierarchy of what we call a company or grouping level, that is really just the name of the organization at that level and not much more information. You can apply some account management information if you like, and what type of record are they, a customer, a prospect, a supplier, etc., etc. So it's just a grouping level there, and the meat of what you're going to do is at our level that we call division, which kind of relates to a site, an office, a shop, or whatever of the customers. And so it's a physical address, and that's where the address comes in. And typically that is the level, always, other than for business to consumer records, but for B2B, that is the level at which we connect to the relevant record in the back office system. But then we extend the hierarchy where you can have an unlimited number of people that we know and deal with at each of those divisions. And I'll come back to the extended hierarchy, but at the moment, if we just finish that hierarchy at our interactions with those people, and we'll come back and talk about sort of, sales and service ticketing and all that sort of thing in a second. So the division is the critical level for our purposes today, at which we will have a relevant record that we're connecting to and pulling information from and pushing information to the back office system, the ERP inventory system. So I mentioned the scenarios that you might meet or might have in your own ERP or inventory. And so let's have a look at how the Prospect CRM can connect in those situations. So the first and most obvious one is a one-to-one that we just did on the previous slide. However, it is worth knowing that you can connect one division from the Prospect CRM system to multiple accounts in the ERP inventory system. And so in that scenario where I had multi-currency accounts, I can connect them all to a single customer in the CRM. And so when I'm going to do a quote, I'll choose which ledger I'm connecting to, and we can do it in the correct currency. But the critical thing is that we will bring in all of the historic information for all three of those accounts and put it together in a single view, so I can see everything that that customer has been buying from me, whether it be in dollars, pounds, euros, or whatever. And there might be other reasons, not just multi-currency, that you could have multiple accounts for a single customer. You know, it may be that they operate in departments, and although it's a single division, a single customer, I'm selling to the same people, they may wish to choose which account they buy from in terms of the accounts that you run for them. So there are other scenarios where you may want to connect a single CRM record, and it's important that I've got a single CRM record because that's where my notes, my opportunities, the contacts that we're going to market to and so on exist, and I only want them in the system once. And when we come on to data corruption, you know, we don't want to set up multiple divisions necessarily, where it's a single organization and have to put the sort of the same contact on the divisions, and then I'll have some notes on one and some notes on another, and it just becomes a complete mess. So we allow you to connect, if necessary, to multiple accounts from the single customer record in the CRM system, and then bring together all of the history of what they've been buying. So the other scenario is where we have multiple divisions in the CRM system, but we're only invoicing to their head office. So whichever one of those divisions, shops, sites, whatever they are, of my customer, whichever one orders, actually they only have one account with me, and the orders always go through on the head office account, and we invoice head office. And so the opposite of what I've got on the left there is true, where you can connect multiple divisions to a single account in your back office ERP inventory system. And so whichever division I go to, yes, we'll take the address for the delivery on that order, but the invoicing account will be the invoicing address, you know, and whichever one of my divisions represents the head office kind of doesn't matter, because they're all linked to that head office account. And so I can link multiple divisions to a single invoicing account where they do have different physical locations and different staff at each location. And it's useful for me to know that in the CRM, because if I'm going to send a sales guy out, he has to know where he's going. But actually, it's just one account in the back office system. And then we can also link to separate order or delivery accounts if your back office system supports those. So this could be the head office, and this is the invoicing account. But in that scenario that I described, where you can set up an order/delivery account for taking orders, but as soon as we turn it into an invoice, it'll jump onto the head office invoicing account, then we can link to those order or delivery accounts, and you can process an order. We will retain the history on the division for that particular office or site. So you will get separation to be able to see this division or site of this company group have been ordering X, Y, and Z, whereas this one are only ordering X and Y. And then we get a consolidated view on their invoicing account of everything that they've bought as a group, and so I can see their whole spend group-wide. So, and obviously, as I mentioned before, you can link individual divisions to individual accounts in the back office system if you have a separate account for each of their offices. And then we can do some reporting at the company group level to bring that all together and show you a history, even though they've got separate accounts, or you can look at the individual history on each of their sites. So hopefully that has all made sense. So before I jump into the system and run through some bits and bobs, I just wanted to just show this slide to show that the hierarchy actually in the Prospect CRM system goes beyond contact and people and interactions. And I'm sure, as all of you will be aware, you can log a lead or an opportunity, which is like a sales project that has a pipeline with a set of stages, a kind of a workflow and to-dos, and you can then do quotations against it and so on. And that you can also log service tickets, again, as another level in the hierarchy, which again have a pipeline, set of statuses, a workflow, and you can set to-dos on those so that people are solving customers' problems. So I just thought it was worth mentioning that the hierarchy doesn't end at the contact level for us. It actually goes on into your sales operations and your after sales. Okay, so hopefully that has explained the hierarchy and how we manage it and the different connection options that you may or may not have been aware of in terms of how you can link up to the ERP and inventory systems in the back office. So I'm now going to jump into the system and I'm going to show you how to create new records and some of the bits of functionality that we've got around that. We're going to talk a little bit about data consistency and how to overcome that, but the policy should be set. And we're going to have a look at some of the notes and recall functionality. So let me just jump over into a system that I've got prepared here. And so the first thing I'm going to do is show you creating a new record. And what I'm going to create is a completely new record. So I've met somebody. I think it'd be useful to have them in our CRM system because we think we can sell to them. And so I'm going to go on the top blue bar here are all my global actions. So a global search and a global add. And I'm going to add a new business contact. And actually, I'm going to add myself. So we start with an email address. It isn't actually mandatory to put an email address in. So you can skip that field. But I think these days, it's kind of the minimum bit of information that you want about somebody. And so every Prospect CRM system now comes with a subscription to a social searching engine. And as I've entered the record, if I tab through the field, it goes off and searches for that email address across all the social media platforms and will come back with information that's available. And so it knows exactly who I am, which company I work for, what the division website is, what my role is. And so we'll say that I'm the sales decision maker. And hopefully we can add the address by just simply putting in the postcode. And so every Prospect system also comes with a subscription for postcode searching, and indeed there's Prospect Soft. And so creating a new record is fairly straightforward. I just have to choose which of those types of records are they. And so we're going to say that this is a prospect. And within the one screen there, the system will now go and create, yes, a contact, but also a division and also a company. And so if I knew that the ProspectSoft group had another division, I could jump up to the company level and I could add here, not using the global add, but using the add on this record, a second division. You know, we've got a division called Zing that does bespoke development, and then we can fill out all the detail on the Zing record as well. And so then what you get from the company level is a view with the two divisions And as I was saying, you might then wish to connect those to different accounts if you've got them in your back office system, or the same account. Let's just create a quotation quickly. And again, I can either go to the page or I can use my record ad, not the global ad, because that'll just put it on its own in the database. But if I say I want to add a quotation, and so this is for Jam Factory Kit. We're selling jam today, guys, and jam making equipment. And so if I create that quotation, now, even though this record doesn't exist in my ERP or inventory system, I can do quotations. And so if I look for jam making, base machine for jam making, and so I don't know why we didn't get a price on that, but we'll put 10 of those on at £525 each. And so I can do a quotation and I can email that or create a proposal document and send it. However, if this was accepted, then obviously we'd need an account in the back office. And so I wouldn't be able to actually move this to ordered. It'll tell me that actually a sales ledger is required. And so here I can create a new sales ledger or account in my back office system. And I can base it on a template if I've got a template, or copy the details from another account. And this will set up a brand new account in my back office that I can then convert the order onto. So I thought that was just worth pointing out, that you don't actually need to be jumping between systems and go and create an account, then come back and link it up. Actually, once you've connected your system, we'll bring in all the customer records, and from that moment on, any marketing records that you sell to, you can create using our functionality in your ERP or inventory system. So just quickly on data consistency, I put in a couple of records to kind of show the issue that you get. And so I've got a few records that end with applications. And this is a common problem. Now, thankfully, our search, you can search for any part of any of the words in the division. And so, as you can see, if I know there's something or other applications, then I can just search for applications or part of that word and it'll find them all. But this is a problem where some people decide they want to put full stops with spaces, some people want it with no spaces, and some people just spaces and no full stops. As I say, thankfully, because our searching is so flexible, you can fairly easily overcome that issue by searching for the bits of the company name that don't have initials in it. I personally would try and set a policy of doing one of these as consistently as possible. I guess that's just a bit of OCD from me, because it actually doesn't make an awful lot of difference in terms of the searching. Thankfully, though, obviously the danger here is if somebody wanted to create PT applications and they'd searched for P.T applications and not found them, they may go to create a new record. And so what I wanted to show you, let me just grab this email address, is providing you are making sure that you use email addresses on all the contacts that are created, the system uses that as a dedupe, and it says that another contact is already using this email address, and actually gives me a link to go and have a look at that contact. And here I can see that PT applications, Patricia, already exists in the system. So data integrity is critical, but we've tried to make the system as flexible as possible to overcome any of those issues. So notes and recalls. If I just go to a lead that I've got in the system here, and show you some of the functionality on Notepad now. So you can see we've got a few different notes going on here. At the top of the notepad, this note is pinned, and so any new notes that are added will go underneath it, and this will always stay at the top. It actually comes from this note that was added by me 2 hours ago and was pinned, and so it will stay at the top of the notepad. So anybody coming to this record will always see that note first because it's pinned. Obviously, you can unpin it and it'll just go back down as a normal note. You'll also notice that one of these has a red exclamation mark, and that allows me to filter the notepad to important notes only. And so if a particular note has gone on a record that we think is pretty critical, you can mark it as important, and then anybody can just filter down to the important notes only. And then finally, if I was to add a note, the other thing I can do is add a tag. And having tagged, you can then filter by tag notes. And so you might use a keyword that's relevant for that opportunity or that customer on several notes. And if you tag all the notes with that keyword, then when I filter by the tags, it'll just show me those notes that have that tag on it. So quite a bit of additional functionality that's available on the notepad now. Recalls is the final thing I was going to show you. So the recall list, you'll all hopefully be aware, let's just come out of that, is held on the little alarm bell up here or on your home screen. On the show more, it now takes me to a full list of all my recalls, which is quite a useful bit of functionality that wasn't there before, so that if for whatever reason I'm about to go on holiday and I just want to pull up all my recalls and start shuffling them about and making sure that I haven't got any recalls while I'm away, you can just hit that show more recalls and it will take you to a full list. In terms of managing recalls, if we just go to that one that I've got, and let's say that I'm going to get somebody else to follow up on this for me. I've done what I needed to do. And so let's set it for Mr. Ardron. And if I'm not sure quite how busy he is, then down here, as I've selected him, it does tell me. So if I select it for tomorrow, he hasn't got any recalls on that specific day. He has got 2 overdue recalls, and by clicking on it, I can see what his overdue recalls are. Or if he had some on the day, I could see a sort of a plan for Andrew and which recalls he had. So the idea here is that I'm not loading someone with recalls that they're just not going to be able to manage. And I get a view as to whether they're available or if they've already got quite a lot on that day. If I wanted to, if I'd finished dealing with this and I wanted to clear the recall, all that you need to do is be at a status in the workflow that the recall can be cleared. And actually, we can see that this opportunity is 100%, it has been closed. So I'm going to mark it as 1. And we're going to say that we're hoping for more business from this customer. It's at 100%, the order's been processed. So now that we're at a closed status, and so it tells me that it went from qualified to 1. On the to-do, I get a new button that allows me to clear the recall. And so now I've cleared that recall and it will disappear from my to-do list. You can't clear a recall if you're at a stage on a service ticket or an opportunity that still needs some action. So it has to come to a closed status. Okay, so that was a bit of a sort of a flash through on all those subjects that we mentioned there. I hope you found some of these little insights useful. If there's other things that you'd like to know about any of these that we've covered today, by all means go to our YouTube channel. You're probably better off accessing our content from our Academy site, that has hints and tips for all users on almost all bits of the system now. You can chat to us by either logging a ticket or in the system. If you go to the question mark, you can open a chat directly with our guys on our in our customer success team. And if there's things that you think the system should do that it doesn't, then please, again, from that same link on the question mark in the system, log them in our ideas portal. Our developers live and die by what comes into that portal, and it's our best method of being able to deliver you, our customers, what you're after from the system. So thank you for your attention. I hope that you found that useful, and we'll catch up at the next webinar. Thank you very much, everybody.